Good evening. It's 5:30 and I'd like to call to order the February 22nd meeting of the Juno Beach Town Council. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Caitlin, do we have any additions or changes to the agenda?
No, just the brought up proclamations. One was for Politicom, that Palm Beach County Activity Week or month. And the other one, I believe you had received one
Yeah,
as well.
we had an additional proclamation for the Florida's Irish American community, a request. So we need consensus to have that.
Do we have council's consensus to add those to the consent agenda for approval?
There was an additional proclamation came in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. I'd like to make one other change if council would approve. I'd like to move item 7 on the creation of a Veterans Day annual ceremony. I'd like to move that to item 3, since we have some people here who would like to speak on that so that they don't have to wait. Would council approve that?
Agreed.
Okay. Good, Alex. Okay. Caitlin, how would you like to number that change?
Moving it, council had given consensus to move it from 7 to item number 3 right before the agreement.
Yes.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
And everything else gets moved down.
Okay. Comments from the public? I understand you have some there on items not on the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Charles Hollings.
Charles Hollings, 1679 Pleasant Drive. Let's talk about the Osceola Road right of way for a couple of minutes. Was the Osceola Road right of way north of Pleasant Drive ever abandoned by Palm Beach County? Well, no, it wasn't. We find ourselves where we are today because of a backroom closed door deal, and it doesn't sound right to me. But let's move on. I have here resolution 2022-04, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Juno Beach, Florida, vacating and abandoning an unconstructed portion of the Osceola Road right away north of Pleasant Drive. That's a problem. That's a big problem because that road was constructed over 60 years ago. I've seen the road. It's an unpaved road like lots of roads in Palm Beach County are today, but the road is there. I've seen it. I have photos. This resolution is built on a house of cards. Let's review a few of the other untruths that have spoken in this room about the right of way. They've been trespassing on the property for decades. That's a lie. It's a trash strewn lot. That's a lie. We're not talking about squirrels and butterflies here. That's another lie. That's exactly what we're talking about. Squirrels, butterflies, and even birds. But there are a few less now that most of the mature trees were torn down 3 weeks ago. Just because Kai Moody says something, just because Jesse Jansen says something, just because Harvey Oyer says something, just because Bob Banks says something, does not make it so. Let's talk about the lease for a moment. The lease. All you hear is that they won't sign the lease. But the reality is that the liability policy required by the lease can't be written without proof of clear ownership, and Jesse Jansen either can't or won't provide that information. Personally, I suspect it's because he can't. No, I humbly suggest that at the conclusion of this meeting, this council figures out how to proceed very, very cautiously, because you've been complicit through all of this. And figuratively speaking, you're sitting in the crosshairs. For those of you who have been on the council long enough, you know that we're not going away. We never go away. And our claim to our long-standing prescriptive rights, the right of way, are open and notorious. No, Mayor Halpern, you told Karen Marcus you wanted to help. So please help. Stand up and take a leadership position. The resolution to this current conflict is for Juno Beach to take over the right of way as a park and make it available and open to the public, just like Hagan Park is. Thank you for listening, but let's be clear. I have told you everything that I said tonight at least once before. I just hope you heard me tonight. See you soon.
Thank you. Caitlin, additional
Lou
comments?
San Lorenzo.
Yeah, I'd like to address the charter amendment, which is now on the ballot for the March 14th election, which is in fact, should we vote for a mayor or not? And, you know, I signed this petition, as many of us have, but we never saw the details of it. Just recently, I got my hands on the 7 or 8 pages of that amendment. And there were some questions in there that are unanswered, and I'm wondering, I don't know if I can get the answers here, or, you know, the answers will be forthcoming. But it is clear that after the amendment passes, if it does pass, that there still will be 5 seats on council. And the amendment now allows for, like me, for instance, who's never been on council, to run for council. And if I were to win as mayor, I could, you know, never being on council, I could be the mayor of Juno Beach, which isn't the case right now. It's an appointed position. So it seems to me, and I don't know, for me, there was some clarification required as to why seat 2 is a 2-year term and why are all the other seats a 3-year term? Is that something that's charter? Something that was just decided? I'm not sure why that particular seat is a 2-year term. Do we get answers tonight or not?
If you would like answers to the questions, that was put forth by a citizens group. Nobody here on the council directly did that. If you have legal questions, our town attorney who reviewed the referendum before it went to the supervisor of elections, the town attorney could answer some of those questions perhaps. Otherwise, I don't know who to refer you to after the meeting or,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And I guess, you know, this is the thing that's confusing to me. So if I was on town council, like you guys are now, and I wanted to run for mayor, I'm assuming I have to give up my seat. So if I was seat 5, for instance, I'd give up seat 5 to run for seat 2. So now if I lose, I'm off council, I assume. If I win, I'm mayor. But suppose that seat 5 or whatever seat announces on November 15th before 12 noon that now they're going to run for mayor for seat 2. How do people come forward and nominate themselves to run for that seat? Is there an extension that's then granted? You know, if I was any seat, and I said, okay, November 15th, 12 noon, I submit that I want to run for mayor. Now there's no time calendar. Not my time up.
But
Okay.
I'll call
I
him.
took a few seconds of your time, Joe. You
I'll call him tomorrow.
okay?
I'll be happy to call you tomorrow.
I would also be happy to answer any questions because I have quite a few of the answers to those questions that you had. So I'd be happy to do that for you. I think it's a situation where they might want to get out a question and an answer, informational sheet. I think that would be beneficial to everyone. So I can suggest that to them as well.
Please speak into the microphone.
Yep. Okay. Okay, thank you. Next comment? Okay.
Jacob Rosengarten.
Good afternoon. 6 months ago, Mr. Cook raised a concern about our email system. He detected a controls flaw that was so significant that he stated he could no longer place reliance on the system to receive his emails. I've written several comments to council about this matter, none of which have triggered a report from staff to council, even though every council agenda states that this will happen. It's a stated policy of our town. And so we apparently live in a town where staff can decide which policies it wants to enforce and which it doesn't want to enforce. And council is apparently okay in not receiving a report from staff on legitimate issues raised by the public, which is in direct contradiction of the stated policy. Can anyone spell litigation? IT is a top 3 risk for every organization these days. For example, even this Stewart was recently a target of a ransomware attack. But thanks to some very good work very recently from Mayor Halpern and Mayor Pro Tem Wheeler, and I'm very grateful for the work you did in response to a recent request I made, I learned the following. There was an IT audit conducted in 2020. Comments were issued. Not all of the comments have been resolved even as of today. Despite that, amazingly, there still are no plans for a refreshed IT study or any sort of follow-up. I smell smoke. Incredibly, our mayor and pro tem were told by staff that they were not allowed to see the consultant's report due to confidentiality. And so they weren't allowed to even understand or see the issues for themselves that were raised by the consultant for themselves. And there are at least 3 reasons why this is false on its face. First of all, our charter gives you extraordinary rights as a member of council. It says, in fact, nothing prohibits individual members of council from closely scrutinizing all aspects of town government operations so as to obtain independent information. That is information not filtered through staff. You can hear from the consultant yourself. I wonder, do any of you on council today know what the actual comments were and which comments remain unresolved as of today? Secondly, you're a fiduciary with respect to our $11 million budget. If we have IT vulnerabilities, hacking, phishing, ransomware, whatever it is, we should be explicitly budgeting some sort of contingency reserve and to cover our insurance deductibles and the risk of exceeding our policy limits. But how can you possibly do this when you're boxed out of the facts in our IT situation, the report itself, and you can have no direct contact with the consultant about the report they issued? And finally, you should do it because it's just good governance to address legitimate concerns raised by our fellow council members. So I would say if the results of the IT report require confidentiality, and I could see why they would, then go over the report in executive session with the consultant present so that you get access to the independent information the charter allows you to receive. But instead of issuing a report to council as our policy requires, I'm sorry to say, it seems to me that staff plays political games with council and the public that divides and conquers. And so I'm very grateful to the efforts of our mayor and Mayor Pro Tem in trying to extract information from staff, but this does not replace a report to council, which would allow council to operate as a deliberative body, which you are, hearing all statements from staff at the same time, with council being allowed to discuss such statements among themselves, as opposed to a series of one-off silo conversations that can't be shared with other council members because of sunshine laws. Please don't cede your authorities, which are granted to you by our charter, and please honor your fiduciary responsibilities over a budget that you're required to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Stuart Katz.
Stuart Katz, 900 Ocean Drive. Direct voter election of our mayor is the single most important current town issue. 3 members of this council voted to deny the people the opportunity to make this decision themselves. Vice Mayor Katsoudakis, departing former Mayor Hasselkorn, and current Mayor Halpern. Ms. Halpern's vote was of particular concern in light of her prior public support of direct election. Over 600 voters signed the referendum petition to eliminate a practice that reminds me of how the Roman Senate selected their emperor. Ms. Halpern says that she changed her stance because she listened to the people. She certainly didn't listen to the 600 petition signatures. I think she's listening to the wrong people. She calls her listening process informed decision-making. I call it flip-flopping. Take your pick. Town manager Lobello informed me at Oktoberfest that I couldn't continue to collect petition signatures while on the so-called town campus. Subsequently, I formally asked if we had an ordinance prohibiting this sort of activity. There is no such ordinance. Such a law would infringe on our First Amendment right to free expression. Our current policy is unenforceable. Police enforce laws, not good old traditions. I was troubled by Mayor Halpern's actions to inhibit the direct mayor election initiative. At the November 22 Coffee with a Cop community meeting, Mayor Halpern, in her words, made an inquiry to the police to stop council candidate Hosta from collecting supportive signatures. Candidate Hosta is unique amongst the 3 candidates in her support for direct mayoral election. Mayor Halpern made a second inquiry to the police, who then asked a resident reviewing a guide to the upcoming 22 midterm elections with Councilmember Cook to do so elsewhere. There was a missed opportunity to obtain clarity between those two incidents. I believe it was wrong for our police department to be put in the middle of what is really a political hiss of opposition. The mayor's response to public criticism was at best inappropriate, in my opinion. Mayor Halpern claimed last month that it doesn't matter to her what the citizens vote. That makes no logical sense. She was the deciding vote that could have given the people the right to vote either way, but she didn't. The old way of choosing our mayor may have worked well for over 50 years, but it has failed in recent history. I urge a vote of yes on the charter text amendment, and by extension, I urge a vote for candidate Hosta.
Michael Clargen,
Michael Clardinar, Canada, 70 Celestial Way, founder of Juno Beach Ecology Group, and proud member of the Union of Concerned Scientists,
closer to the microphone, please. Thank you.
Science for a Healthy Planet and a Safer World. A letter was sent this morning to the council and town staff on behalf of Concerned Citizens Group of Juno Beach. The letter is entitled Grave Procedural Errors in Town Manager Election Process, Selection Process. Outcome Reconsideration in New Selection Process through Public Workshop. This under the banner of, or within the banner of Codes of Ethics and Open Government Procedures to ensure full transparency and accountability in open government. Therefore, we concerned citizens of Juno Beach are requesting a public workshop now, prior to the hiring process of any town manager. A public workshop to be implemented through a moratorium to the current selection process, to the current hiring process. So prior to the hiring process of any town manager, in order to address and resolve procedural errors in the election process, integrate thoroughly Juno Beach residents' input, and reconsider current outcome through newly revised selection process to be outlined in through the input of public opinion, the citizens of Juno Beach, in a public workshop. So I would like to hear the responses of the town council now. Who would support that now?
Michael, if anybody wishes to address it, council members can address that at the end during their comments from council.
And what about now? Couldn't anyone?
No, we have additional comments and an agenda to
Very good.
complete.
We'll
Thank
wait
you.
until a little while. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Diana Davis.
Diana Davis, 440 Sunset Way. I wanted to talk about the process of selecting town manager, and I'll be the first to welcome David Dreiss as our new town manager. With that said, I think it's important and it's worth the effort to examine the process of selection, as we only get better if we resolve process issues. The process for decision-making was flawed in that the council decisional criteria was not disclosed. It was not set out ahead of time. Each applicant for the job should have been ranked according to this predetermined decisional criteria and its weight. It's the process that's required for bidding jobs by the town. I don't know how it should make these types of decisions. When the town hired an environmental consultant, for example, the decisional criteria and its ranking and scoring were an integral part of making the decision and selection. If the decisional criteria for town manager had been agreed upon ahead of time, and if Florida East Coast experience was the most important criteria, the search might have looked differently. The decision criteria was lacking, and because it was, I heard discussions over personality such that applicants were too loud or too stoic, and one was just right. It really is more than a personality contest. And David Dreiss does have important characteristics that were on my decision criteria list, such as processes for including public comment and decision-making, and form-based zoning codes for the town of Stewart. These were the types of discussions I would have expected from council for such an important decision. But the big, huge problem is the process for salary negotiation for the new town manager. You had a professional HR consultant doing the search for applicants for town manager. This was a neutral third-party contractor headhunter who should have negotiated the salary for the new town manager. We paid him, what, $20,000, $24,000? If the headhunter is an HR expert, knows the salary ranges, is an expert in salary negotiation, why wasn't a process selected for the HR expert and neutral to third party to take on the task of salary negotiation? Instead, Lynn Rubin, our town council, whose workload is determined in part by this very same town manager, is negotiating the new town manager's salary. There's an inherent conflict of interest, and it's putting our town attorney in an impossible position as his pocketbook take-home pay is determined in part by the town manager, and he's going to negotiate the same person's salary. I fear putting people in bad positions results in bad decision-making by our town. You should have given the decision-making a little more time, as suggested by Councilperson Cook, to iron out the process or procedure for the decision, the criteria and weight that was going to be considered, and the process for salary negotiations that's not fraught with conflict or has the perception of conflict.
Okay, thank you.
Aldo Rovere.
Aldo Rovere, Uno Lago Drive. I'm getting sick and tired of this misleading information that you're getting. Stuart today just mentioned that I was not in favor as a candidate for this position of the voting for mayor. Well, I have it signed, sealed, and delivered on a piece of paper that I got yesterday, part of the signatures that we made. And Mr. San Lorenzo just spoke about the fact that this election, the only problem with it is that a lot of us don't even know what we're actually voting for. You made it so simple. Yes or no. It's not that simple. There's a lot of background that needs to be reviewed. And Lou brought that out, and I hope he'll get the answers from you for that. So I just want to make that one item clear. And I don't want to make this a political statement because I didn't intend to come here and make a political statement. But since I have the microphone, I want to let you know there were two signs over there at the cast of mine that disappeared mysteriously. That's one. Then the other thing, there's so many other issues that are brought out by my, I guess, other candidate that I can't even stomach at night when I go to bed. So I'm self-funding my campaign. I don't have their money. And I just want to let everybody know that. I'm self-funding, and I'm not going to throw good money away if this town isn't going to recognize who they need to be a council member. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have a person on Zoom, Mr. Benzinger.
Okay, sure. Mr. Basinger is the town's hired consultant for the process of selecting the town manager. And I believe he wanted to make a comment about the procedural questions.
Mr. Benzinger, your 3 minutes for public comments.
Thank you. Judging from some emails, there's been a little bit of confusion about how our process was handled. First of all, everything was done in public. It was totally transparent. Secondly, what we did was we asked each elected official to pick their top two candidates. When we did that, Mr. Doherty had 4 votes, Mr. Garside had 3, and Mr. Dias had 3. But we asked the people to pick their top 2 choices, not their top 1 choice. And I've seen this happen. Actually, it happened the first time I employed this process. I promptly declared the one who had the most votes the winner, and I looked at the council and they like, huh? How do you get that? And then I realized that the person with the most votes was the person who was also was probably their second choice, not their first choice. And apparently that's what happened with Mr. Doherty. He was a good second choice from the majority of the council. Back 3 or 4 out of 5. He could have had a first place vote. I don't know. But when we revoted, Mr. Dias was the selection. And that's kind of the way it was. So it was, the process worked exactly as it was intended, to come to consensus with the council. That's really all I have to say about it.
Okay.
I'd be happy to
Thank-
comment later if you want more information from me, if you feel it's needed.
Thank you, Colin. Council members can make a comment at the end of the meeting in their comments from council, and we can circle back if there's any additional questions at that time. Otherwise, we'll just move forward with the meeting as planned. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Colin.
Well, thank you.
Any additional comments, Caitlin?
The rest are for other items on the agenda.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to move forward now with item number 2 on the agenda is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second. Just
All
to
in favor?
clarify, it's the consent agenda as amended with those 2 proclamations and the change.
Yes.
As amended.
Thank you. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, thank you. So now we're going to move on to the agenda item number 7 that I put on the agenda, discussion on proposal to create an annual Veterans Day ceremony event of the town. And I believe we had some public comments on this, right?
Yes, Lauren Berkson.
Thank you so much. My name is Lauren Berkson. I am a Gold Star daughter. My father was killed in Vietnam, May 2nd, 1972. He was in the Army, and I do a lot with different municipalities to honor our veterans and our Gold Star families. I was proud to work with Joe Labello and his team and the council. A few years ago, we dedicated a Gold Star memorial marker in front of Loggerhead Marine Life Center. And I feel like the town of Juno Beach was very supportive and went out of their way to make sure that people understood that freedom isn't free, and that without our veterans and without our Gold Star families, that this council wouldn't even be here, right? There would be no government. Without our veterans, we would have nothing. And I think people lose sight of that sometimes. I think they take a lot for granted, and they have a lot of, I don't want to say petty, but there's a lot of things that should take priority and precedence over some things. I think in everybody's way of life that we wouldn't have without our veterans. So I'm just here. The mayor was very supportive, reached out to the veteran community and asked what we thought about this monument and having an annual event. And I want to say that we're all for it. And we appreciate you advocating for us, because believe it or not, the veterans are a very underserved population, which is really pathetic. And I just want to thank, if we have any veterans here, if you could please stand real quick, if you're able. I want to thank you all for being here. It means a lot to have a community that supports us. I might not live in Juno Beach. I'm in a neighboring city, but I do a lot here and I have Gold Star families that live here. And I just want you to know how much it means for you all to support honoring our veterans and our fallen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Michael Shaw. Shay.
Hi, Michael Shea, 13878 Oleander Avenue, right around the corner. It's good to see you all. It's good to see all of you here. And I'm here to support the veterans, and I'm here to talk about the memorial and veterans. I have 100% service-related PTSD disability. And so when I saw that there was a monument being constructed, I thought it was really an amazing thing that Juno Beach had done. And I really wanted to get involved. So I'm here to support that monument and support a ceremony and a recurring ceremony if we can have that. But I'd also like to talk about what was just spoken about is the veterans that are in need. Every 18 minutes in this country, a veteran commits suicide. We have veterans in Palm Beach County that are pretty destitute as well. And so I would like to see and advocate for the council and this town as much as possible as long as possible, that this recurring ceremony also be linked to fundraising, that money be given to like the DAV. I support the DAV. They supported me. We have other organizations present here. We have over 500 veterans organizations in the United States, and there's 2 or 3 or maybe 4 represented here tonight. So if we could find a way to get money channeled in the right direction for the help that's necessary. I've talked to suicide prevention people. I help counsel veterans that are in need for getting their disability benefits and so forth. And so we need your help. And it's great that you've got this monument. And I want to totally support the monument, that there be a proper ceremony, that there be a recurring ceremony. I've heard it recommended that we have a color guard. It would be great to have a 21 gun salute. I think that would be absolutely awesome if it didn't trigger too many traumatic events for veterans. But nonetheless, fundraising, I think it's very, very important that this monument just not be about thank you for your service. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Arcuri.
Well, good evening. My name is Bill Arcuri. I live in Jupiter, but I'm a native Floridian. Come from a military family. And I think it's important that we do remember our veterans and honor them on a yearly basis, even for an hour once a year is not much to ask. I was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. So I'm aware of everything that goes on here about veterans, and I'm an advocate at the VA for the POWs. And I think it's important, and I'm glad to see that you're going to have a monument and maybe a ceremony for us. We did that in Jupiter. I support Gold Star Mothers. I do a lot of things around this Florida, and I think it's great that we're doing something here in Juno Beach. That's what I'm here to support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ike Durkee.
Good evening, and thank you for putting the ceremony on the agenda. I'm Mike Durkee. I'm a U.S. Army combat veteran, 13 years in the Army, served in Iraq, 2005, 2006, and then over in Afghanistan, 2012, 2013. I lost good friends overseas, lost a good friend to a helicopter crash over in Kandahar. So I know firsthand the sacrifices that our veterans and their families go through, and they live right here in Palm Beach County and here in our local area. So it really means a lot to us. I don't know if you know this, but Florida has the 3rd largest veteran population in the United States. California, #1, Texas, #2, and Florida, #3. We have over 82,000 veterans living in Palm Beach County as well. So, this really means a lot to us. And just to let you know, Wounded Veterans Relief Fund, we're We're here in North Palm Beach, but we service veterans throughout the entire state of Florida. We help out our veterans that are homeless. We help out our veterans avert homelessness. We work with FP&L very closely to turn the utilities back on. And we also just started a dental program for veterans to help support them in their greatest time of need and give them a future and honor them, give them hope. So having this memorial and having a dedicated ceremony for our veterans is greatly needed and greatly appreciated from a combat veteran and from all our veterans here. I know we have family members here that live in Juno Beach that have, sons and daughters that are currently serving in our military. So again, thank you so much for the time and thank you for putting this on the agenda.
Thank you.
Good night.
Ed Brown.
Good evening. My name is Ed Brown, Uno Lago Drive. I'm a former Marine wounded combat veteran. I'm here to support my fellow veterans here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen Andel.
Good evening. As many of you know, I had the honor and privilege to serve the citizens of Juno Beach as a member of the town council for 8 years. My daughter, Sophia, who grew up here in Juno Beach, is currently serving America as a first lieutenant in the United States Army. She is posted in Fairbanks, Alaska. She's an Apache helicopter pilot. Your presence on the dais demonstrates that you understand the commitment to service, the dedication to service, and undoubtedly you understand the commitment that our veterans have made and all those currently serving in our armed forces make every day. So I'm here to encourage you to consider having this Veterans Day service. And I am here and ready, willing, and able to help council staff if there's any need for assistance in organizing the event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Klarjan, was it for the next item, the town manager item? We switched number 7 to number 3. So you want number 4 now? Okay. That's all the comments I received for this item.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank Lauren for reaching. I reached out to Lauren and she reached out to her network of veterans. So thank you all for coming. Was there an additional comment? Please go to the microphone. Sorry.
Just to show you how great veterans are. So this gentleman didn't get here in time to fill out a comment card, but I do want everyone to know that this Legion is literally down the street and they are more than willing to be part of your ceremony, which you were talking about having a color guard. They do a fantastic job. They've done a lot of events. They did our Gold Star Memorial marker. So if you just want to say a couple things real quick, just to.
Thank you. I just want to say, my name is Jay Josko. I'm a Vietnam combat veteran. And I totally support the idea of any town to put up a Veterans Memorial. It means a lot to us. I have a lot of friends here and it's very emotional, but please consider it and thank you.
Thank you. So I placed this item on the agenda with the hope of getting consensus, not only for an annual event, but perhaps we can create some other kind of network. But Alex, would you have thoughts on this? Ultimately, I'd like to get consensus to have the event and then have staff work with Lauren as they did before.
Alex, Alex, I don't know. Is it okay, Alex? Could I have permission from the council to go first? Because I need to clarify something. Is that okay? I feel really bad. I want to thank every one of the veterans that have come out today. I think I want to go first because I think there was a misunderstanding on the council. And I think that none of us ever thought that we were not going to have a dedication and a ceremony. But the reason we didn't do a consensus the last time was because we wanted to get the memorial stone in. We wanted to answer some additional questions, like what day it should be on. Staff if it's Veterans Day, staff is not here on Veterans Day. So there's a lot of additional questions that need to be thought through. So I don't think it was anyone's intention not to have a ceremony. So I feel bad because I almost got the feeling that, everyone thought that the rest of us didn't want to have a ceremony. And it's not true on my part. I come from a family, and I'll start crying myself because my dad was in the Korean War. Sorry. So I get very emotional about this. So I'm very dedicated to it. So I do want the veterans to know that we're here and we are going to be discussing this. And that's the reason that we didn't do the consensus right away. And that's really the only reason. I started this particular project and doing a memorial for the veterans a long time ago. I was one of the originators that started this. So I'm very dedicated to this. And I know that the rest of the council is probably dedicated as well.
That's interesting because I thought that this came up when we were redoing the 9/11 area after the vines came down. I thought it was a unified effort that no one person started it in particular, but
I think it was a case where I brought it to the attention of everyone, and then Jim Lyons kind of got in and was very supportive, and then everyone else on council also did
that's not how I remember it. But anyway, Alex, what were your comments?
So I'm, of course, I support the memorial. I support the ceremony. I just had a thought after listening to them, maybe not go crazy with the ceremony, and the expense that would have been used could be gifted to the VA or something along those lines. That was just my thought, because when you go crazy with the ceremonies, the potential to give back is lost in the process.
I had suggested a donation when we were deciding on the memorial stone, the monument stone at that time. I had suggested that we do some small donation to several charities that I had researched at that time, but council didn't give consensus for that, but we certainly could.
I don't believe I was on council then. But I
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
supportive of something along those lines.
Thank you. Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying no ceremony. I'm just saying, bells and whistles can go a lot further somewhere else.
Thanks. Jason?
I'm in support of it. I was in support of it before. I think whether it's a donation, whether it's any kind of an event or ceremony, I would like the staff to take a look at a couple of different options, let the council know what might make the most sense, and let the council make a decision, and let's start.
Okay, thank you. Elaine?
So the monument itself is in honor of our veterans, and we all and our families have had, well, I can't really speak for all, but I'll speak for myself. We all have people who we've lost in wars, and unfortunately, it's a sad thing, but we definitely need to honor our veterans. I'm in support of the dedication stone and having some sort of celebration. That being said, I agree that we should make donations in addition to a small ceremony. I think donations will go a lot further helping our veterans and their families. So let's continue this. We support you. We support you.
Okay, thank you. And we did have the monument template design. I just had one suggestion, Joe. I don't know if it's too late, but it's the headline or the words on it are duty, honor, and country. I thought that maybe instead of the word country, the word service might be more meaningful. And I don't know if anybody else on council or any of the veterans had any thoughts on the words that they feel, the adjectives that are most representative. I just thought that service was a more powerful word. Yes, would you like to make a comment? on the appropriate language?
Yes, when I saw that and I saw the duty, honor, country, I'm a West Point graduate, and that's exactly what I thought of West Point General MacArthur, his speech, these three hollow words. I looked at all the core values for all the services, and country is not in there. It's service. And I agree that duty, honor, service was probably more appropriate comment on there than duty, honor, country.
Thank you for your input.
I did have one more public comment submitted. Cy
okay.
Seymour.
Hello, my name is Cy Seymour. I'm a veteran of the Korean War. Not too many of us left. And whatever you do will be appreciated. Whatever you do is the right thing. And I'm sure you will do the right thing for our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Cy. Yeah. One
more comment on the monument, the order of the services. Since the Act of Congress in 1977, peacetime, the Coast Guard is operated under the Department of Homeland Security, not the Department of Defense. And it's always listed as the last service. When you fly the flag, it's always the last service, unless in time of war. And then the Coast Guard would move back under Department of Defense with the Navy, and that's where they would fit in there. So I think it more appropriate to have Coast Guard the last thing on there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll make that a note of that. I'd also like to just give a shout out to my father. He's 92 and he may be watching I know my mom watches the meetings, and sometimes he says, I don't need to watch it because he sees what happens here and it's difficult for him to see sometimes. But thank you, Dad, for your service.
Thank you.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Well, I'd like to just suggest perhaps that we give this back to staff, and then we can at the next meeting discuss, because I know the memorial is not in yet. It's on that slow boat coming over. And we can look at some different options. I know the Waterford already holds a Veterans Day event. So we need to look at that. The town is closed that day as well, right, Joe? Yeah, it's a Veterans Day, of course. So we don't want to interfere with that and have to bring people in. And so if maybe we can get a memorandum from them and kind of list these items and see if we can come up with a time or a date that
I'd like to make a motion or get a motion, and I'll pass the gavel if I have to make the motion, but I'm going to pass the gavel and I'm going to make a motion to create an annual Veterans Day ceremony, and then we can work out the details at a future meeting. Does anybody want to second that?
Well, I'll second, but I just wanted to put it out there because we have the veterans here. Would you rather the excess money go as donations, or do you want a big ceremony? I mean, I'd love to hear that from the veterans.
So I just want 2 cents. I think that it would be great if you voted that you were going to have an annual ceremony, because that would take a weight off of us to know that it was going to happen. I think the details, staff, if they're not going to, be able to coordinate an event on their day off, then that's understandable. Maybe they do it the day before. Anytime, we do the Veterans Day parade downtown West Palm. We do it on the Sunday before Veterans Day because we know cities do their events. And, Jupiter's is at 9, North Palm is at 10. People will come here at 11. You have to decide, look around you, see what your neighbors are doing. Maybe you want it the day before. Maybe you want to do it on a few days before. Maybe you want it on a weekend. But your staff, I would hope, would buy in, because they wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for our veterans, right? So people have to have gratitude and kind of get back to the basics. And I think knowing the American Legion will be there for you. They'll help you coordinate it. They'll do the invocation. They'll do the color guard. I'm sure you have community partners that would donate coffee and cookies. You don't have to make it a big thing. They just want the gratitude. a lot of these gentlemen and women have sacrificed they have health issues because of their service. I don't need to get into all of the different disabilities, but I will say that they continue to sacrifice all these years later. And I think that gratitude and seeing something good come from their service, you know, that gives them the things that they need. Because every veteran I know is still serving in some way. It doesn't matter if they're 100 or young like Mike. I mean, the mission continues for everyone. So I don't think you need to worry about the semantics. I think that the American Legion, you have good community partners, and this can be done any day between, like, say, the 5th and the 11th. Veterans Day is always on the 11th. So the day of the week might change. Sometimes it might be on a weekend, sometimes it's not. That shouldn't be the issue. And like I said, the money part, great. You know, we work with other cities and they do different things for veteran organizations. That's like a whole nother subject, right? That's something you need to work out. And you need to get your residents' input and see, like he said, you know, DAV helped him. You know, the American Legion is going to be helping you with your event. You want to support them. They need members. They need people to be involved with them. So there's a lot that goes into this. And there's nothing wrong with having a workshop or a community meeting about that. But I think that's a whole separate thing. We're all here tonight to see you say, yes, we're doing an event every year to honor our veterans. That's what we're here for.
Yes, right.
Seconded. I already seconded Dee Dee's
So
motion.
So I made the motion. Do we have a second?
I seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you for coming and for your service.
Guess I give this back to you now.
Okay.
This was very important.
Yeah, you did a great job. guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your service so much.
Thank you.
So then.
Okay. To tie it all up, we'll have a subsequent item on a future agenda to work out the details and the dates and
We're just-
staff will.
Yeah, leave it, Joe, at this point, you take over, right, and get back to us. Got it. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, agenda item 3, the employment agreement with David Dias to serve as town manager. Attorney Rubin.
Is it 4 now?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, agenda item 4. Thanks.
All right.
Now 4. Okay, so at the last meeting, the council selected Mr. Dias, unanimously selected Mr. Dias to serve as the next town manager and directed me to negotiate an employment agreement with Mr. Dias. So in the memo, there's a draft agreement in your agenda, but the memo outlines the basic terms of the agreement. It's for a term of 5 years because that's what our code requires. That'd be a 5-year term. It's uncertain right now, depending on his commitments to his current employer, when he will be able to start. I asked him for an absolute outside date, and that was where the May 1st came from, but hopefully it will be sooner. It depended on whether his current employer was going to seek an internal candidate or an external candidate, and then the notice. So, but the May 1st is the outside day, but likely it will be sooner than that. Again, he will be employed as the full-time manager. As in other town manager agreements, he's allowed to do certain teaching and other sort of activities, but any other business or occupation would have to be approved by the town council because he is an exclusive employee of the town. As he stated during his interview, he is a part-time law enforcement officer. He was the police chief in Stewart. He still has his law enforcement certification, and I believe he said they never want to give that up.
So there are some things he will need to do to maintain that certification, but the agreement states that he will do that during his off hours and it will not interfere with town business salary, which I guess is the big ticket item. The agreement provides for a salary of 183, which is the midpoint of the range that the council established. Right now, I believe Mr. Dias is making 176 something, 177, but that's the salary in the agreement. As far as potential raises, it's pretty much reflects what Mr. LaBella's contract says, that he'll get a COLA and he'll get the average merit increase. But there is specific language in there that states that the council is not required to make any salary adjustments. So we've moved all the adjustments, and I was talking to Matt, where Matt went, about all this, and the town likes to do them all in October as part of the budget, which makes sense. So I added a provision in that first year that if he was going to get a raise based on the COLA and the merit increase, it was going to be prorated, so it would be half of what he would normally get. The agreement provides for an annual performance review, either collectively by the council or individually at the council's option. And this is very similar. You pretty much see the same language in every manager employment agreement. It provides for two types of termination with cause, without cause. Generally, if a manager is terminated without cause or under this agreement, he'll receive 20 weeks as sort of a severance. It used to be much more years ago. Well, Joe's first contract was even more, but many years ago, people would get 6 months typically. But there was a statute that the legislature passed some years ago that limits it to 20 weeks. Every agreement I've seen since basically provides for the 20 weeks pay if you're terminated without cause, but it also requires the manager, in order to receive that payment, to execute a release in favor of the town of any claims he might have against the town. And with cause, there's no severance payment. The agreement outlines the circumstances which constitute for termination with cause. And if the council elects to, we hope this never happens, but if the council elects to terminate the manager with cause, he would just be entitled to pay actually earned. It provides for a 60 days notice for resignation. As far as personal leave time, Joe was in the highest category because we all know Joe's been here since the beginning of time. But when we were going back and forth, it seemed easier for me to place him in an existing category that we have in our personnel manual. So I placed him in the 10 to 15 years, which is 29.25 days annually. So the way it works under the manual is the PLT, the personal leave time, accrues with each paycheck. But Mr. Dias did request that he be given sort of a bank of 20 days. So he doesn't have to wait 6 months to accrue days to actually take time off in the event he's required to take time off for something. But it would not increase the overall 29 days annually. The agreement provides that the town will pay 100% of his health, dental, and vision for him and for his dependents. That was something we discussed at length, but most of the recent contracts provide for 100% for manager and dependents. So that's included in this contract. He will receive the same automobile and cell phone allowance that Mr. LaBella received, $500 for automobile, cell phone allowance of $100. And basically because the manager is on call 24/7 and is using his personal vehicle and his personal cell phone, that is generally why those types of compensation are set forth in the agreement. The last was the retirement benefits. We went back and forth on this a few times. We have a 401A for the general employees where the town contributes essentially 8% and the employee contributes 2%. We went back and forth to try to make that work. And we also have a 457 plan, a deferred compensation plan that employees contribute to that the town does not. After going back and forth, it came out, what the agreement provides for is a 15% contribution to the 401A, and that we have a 457 plan, but there's no contribution to the 457 plan. That would be up to Mr. Dias to decide how much money he wanted to to deposit into that account. The last issue that was raised at the meeting was this lawsuit that the city of Stewart's involved in with PFAS, which I can't even pronounce the stuff, but they're these chemical compounds that were used in firefighting foam that many cities believed have resulted in contamination to their water supplies. So the city of Stewart is one of those cities that filed suit, and they were selected to go to trial this year. So I did talk to him about the extent of his involvement. He indicated that he was already deposed, so they have his testimony or what he would say at trial. He's not sure he'll even be called at trial, but his involvement was really only budgetary as the manager. So if he is called to trial, the trial's in South Carolina. So if he's called to trial, he does not anticipate being more than 2 or 3 days. And that's the basic terms. I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, it's ultimately up to the council.
Okay, thank you, Len. Alex, would you like to get started?
Sure. No, the contract is fairly standard. On the 401A, the 15% contribution, that's town contribution, correct?
That's employer, yes, town.
Okay, so employer contribution is 27 grand. So total package, do we have the cost of the insurance, et cetera? I'm just trying to get all numbers.
I don't have the total cost of all the, and I don't know, Matt has those numbers, but I do not have the total cost of numbers.
Okay.
I mean, I get that for you. I don't have.
Sorry, I'm just looking for total package. Okay. Aside from that, I guess I'd like to know total numbers, but it's pretty straightforward aside from that. Moving on.
Okay, Jason?
I agree. It's pretty straightforward. And I know we went through this with Joe years ago. I'm familiar with the form. I think Len, you've done a good job putting the pieces into place, and issues like the personal leave time that could have bogged us down. I appreciate you being out in front of that and trying to at least float out there some mutually agreeable or potentially agreeable arrangements.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Peggy?
It's going fast. There's just a couple of things I want to bring out and mention. Severance pay is 20 weeks, but that's based on Florida state statute requirement as Len said. The PLT I didn't have a problem with because it's 20 days. He's just getting that up front, but it's part of the 29.25. Automobile and cell phone are in line. Retirement benefits, it is 15, that is 27,000. We could discuss that if anybody wants to. If not, I'm fine. Professional activity, it's good that he have no outside and full-time employment with his full-time employment, no outside activities. I do have one here, merit and COLA. I would prefer that we don't give a merit and COLA. And Joe, I know in your contract, I think I did that with you when I first started on council. I spoke up and said, I don't understand why we're giving a merit and COLA when we're bringing someone on board and we've just given him a 3.9% raise. So for me, I would want to skip this year and start the merit and COLA in the following years. So that's my feeling on that one. Annual review, I would like to make sure that we discuss that as a council at some point, because performance reviews are important, and just maybe lay out how we want to approach that so that we've got a standard going forward on that one. Otherwise, I think that was it.
Yeah, I have no additional comments because I heard everything my council members said, and I've already spoken with Len about this, and it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm the only one. I thought that the salary, not that it was high, but I would have targeted a lower salary, considering that Stewart is a larger city with more services to manage, and we're considerably smaller. To Joe's credit, I did see your contract, and you graciously accepted less than you're currently making, going to a fairly equivalent city, is the size of Lake Clark Shores. I was curious what a current apples to apples situation would be. So, but if you other four, you're okay with the salary. I just didn't think that if we're giving him then 183, I wouldn't do any prorated raise in this first year. I do believe in probationary periods that people do need to show what they're, prove themselves in that first year. So I wouldn't give a proration. I wouldn't give merit COLA. If we're going to stick at the 183, then that's it for the year.
I think that's fair.
Um,
I'm on board for that. Did you get the insurance over here?
He has all the numbers now.
That I would love to hear.
The total with everything, insurance, car, retirement is what, 245? Is that what it is? 245, 957.
To say that,
245,957. That's with car allowance, phone allowance, health insurance, retirement contribution, right? Dental, vision, all that stuff.
Can I just ask?
that's pretty good.
Well, it's always big
Yeah.
when you factor in the benefits. It's,
So Alex, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, no, I was just gonna ask, Joe's total package. What, do we have an idea on those
Well,
numbers?
Joe's salary alone was over 200, and
I know
then you
he's
had
been
the FRS contribution. You had, the only thing that's different on Joe's is we only paid 50% of his dependent coverage. So still have his salary. You had, I don't know what the FRS contribution is. 18%.
This was a higher contribution.
he's-
But
yeah,
he's
and
been
drop.
there for a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
I mean, that's different. So the higher contribution to FRS, but his insurance was cheaper. Okay, so then the math on Joe's total package is almost identical because he's taking a hit on insurance.
So then we have a 30-year manager making the same as a fairly new manager.
Correct. Total package is essentially identical to Joe's. That's where I'm going with this. That's just food for thought.
Yeah, that's, I guess, why I thought we were at the high end of things. I don't know, Len, did you happen to speak with him about a 50% dependent coverage versus full coverage?
There were a couple of things that were important to him. That was one, and the retirement also. So, but I'm not saying what he would or would not ultimately accept if the council decided to alter the terms, but during the course of our discussions, those were two important items to him.
What is Stewart giving in those areas? Do you know?
Well, I have, Stewart pays his, I believe he pays all of his insurance. So he's in the retirement system, plus he gets an additional 10% from Stewart. So he's actually getting more in retirement benefits. The same 20 weeks. I don't know what Stewart does as far as their insurance, because it says that he shall be provided with the same employee benefits as provided to other city department directors. And it says it includes health insurance, leaves, travel expenses. I'm not sure if they pay the entirety of the dependent coverage or not.
Len, do you have an idea of what other municipalities are doing? And then Matt, I have a question for you.
Well, I know North Palm is paying 100% of the dependent coverage, and I know Lake Clark Shores is paying 100% of the dependent coverage.
Yeah, but those salaries are lower.
No, North Palm's higher.
North Palm's also much bigger.
Yeah, no, but his package is bigger, but it's a bigger city. I understand what you're saying, but he's never been a full-time manager before either. So he's worked for the village for as long as I have, about 16, 17 years. I've lost track already, but always in the department director position, never in the manager position, other than on an interim basis.
So Matt, the numbers for Joe right now at 201, 245 or whatever it is, plus the 18%, plus the 50% and 100%, that comes out to something similar. It seems like it would be more.
You'd have to get back on the adding.
I think it would be more than,
It's close, but I mean, it's $8,400. It's about an $8,400 difference for insurance. So
Okay.
that's just off the top of my head. It's
for the 50% additional 50.
$700 per month, so.
8,400 a year or per month? What
A
did you-
year.
A year.
Annually for the dependent coverage.
Yeah, that would be for the dependent cover.
Well, let's start with the merit and COLA. Is everyone in agreement? Do we want to look at not starting the merit and the COLA until the following year or just the merit? Everyone's thought.
I would say I'm fine waiving that. I think if we're being generous with the salary, then we can wait until the
So
rest,
I-
the next year,
October 1, 24.
Correct.
Okay.
unless we change the salary number. Then I would flex on that.
I think if you're gonna start changing things, that's an easier thing to change, but again, it's up to you collectively.
Any other thoughts?
Purposes of consensus, I'm on board with that as well.
Thanks. Caitlin has a public comment, I think, right?
Yes, Michael Clarjan Narconata.
Michael Clardinar, Canada, 70 Celestial Way. What I'm observing here is that there are no efficient mechanisms in place to ensure in real time now full transparency and accountability in open government. It means that Attorney Rubin, we are paying him a certain amount per hour. How much? 150 to 100 for his services. He's negotiating with the candidate elect, unquote, for town manager. And all those provisions, all those negotiations are obscure. They hasn't been put forward so that anyone can see it. We need a sunshine law, a code of ethics, that all these have to be absolute full transparency and accountability. And it can be done through many ways, but certainly a report by the town council, and also a set of criteria that the council engages. So the town council should be the representative of the town. The town council should be the representative of the town council. So this discussion here, it's obscure, it's opaque, and I don't like that. I like to see full transparency and accountability through open code. It can also be listed on the website so that the people of Juno Beach should have prior knowledge of these transactions, and they should be able to intervene with their opinions through a public workshop. And that's why we are asking for a public workshop to address the entire selection process that happened and the compensation. But this process of discussing in a very cavalier way is not transparent. It's not transparent. So and then there's the issue of metrics, compensation ranges and metrics for appropriate towns. Stuart is another much larger town. So those things need to be considered. And there are no criteria beforehand before Attorney Rubin engaged the candidate select. So I'm really surprised about this. I would like to see a workshop to address these issues and Juno Beach citizens' input so that it's brought to full transparency in real time through open code, means through the portal and through meetings in the workshops. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, Caitlin?
Not that I received for this item.
Okay, thanks. Continue the discussion.
Yeah, so I was going through the numbers. So he's retiring from Stewart. He's getting a pension from there. We're going to pack 15% into our pension, which is another 27 grand. And I mean, I'm looking for apples to apples here. I'm not going to be as supportive of this total package. I mean, you know, Joe was sacrificing 50% of the insurance. His pay is based on the fact that he's been here for years and he got increases. So I'm now, initially I was more supportive of the pay. I'm less supportive now because these numbers are getting pretty big. And even if I run all of Joe's numbers are going to come somewhere a total package of about 255. Even with his 18%. But keep in mind, he's been the town manager for 15 years, 3.5% increases, et cetera. So I can quantify that and understand why those numbers got there. Starting at 183 with 27 grand going to retirement, full insurance, and then making increases, ignoring the fact that we're not going to do it at year one. This is going to become a huge salary in 5 years. And I don't think it corresponds to the size of our town. So that's where I am now.
Well, and I
Thank
just,
you, Alex, for articulating that. I guess that was my initial point, but you articulated it well.
I
So
mean, and
thank you.
as I indicated, the council is not required to give those increases. If you choose not to, you do not have to increase the salary. You're not contractually obligated to.
I don't know. I would, at the very least, I would match his current salary if we're going to do 100% of benefits. And the other additions. I would match the salary rounded up or something like that. Would anybody be comfortable with that? Or do you have a different proposal?
I think we've effectively done that with the suggestion of how to handle the merit and the cost of living increase. If, I mean, you know, financially, you could knock what, roughly $7,000, $8,000 a year off the salary and keep the merit and COLA adjustments in there, or you just go forward with what appears on the surface to be a slightly more attractive salary figure. It's a little bit higher than what he's getting now. I don't think it's going to, it doesn't have that kind of dramatic impact, but I think it's a show of good faith in some respects. And then by hitting the pause button on the merit and COLA increase, you've effectively saved several $1,000s that first year, and you get an opportunity to assess the job that he's doing.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. And you would keep the 100% benefits versus a 50% like Joe is getting?
Well, I believe what Len has expressed is that was extremely important to the candidate. So considering the issue, that's one that, you know, coming back to him, I think he's, you know, we don't know if he's getting it now, but I think that's the assumption or presumption that Len was operating under. And seeing as that was a material term, I think it's easier for us to do the adjustment with the COLA and the merit increase, as opposed to try to save the money on the insurance side. And it wouldn't surprise me if really any other candidate from a competitive standpoint, whether it's 50%, 100%, it's the depending on their age and things like that. Those are factors that may or may not have a significant impact to other candidates. So I would leave it alone if that's if that was a significant issue, because I think from a cost standpoint, it's something it's not shocking to me that it would be a request.
Well, I just want to throw in there that 3.5% increase, even if we skip 1 year, that is the spread on the insurance. That's an $8,000 increase, because remember, he's really making 210,000 because we have to contribute 15 to the plan. So that negates the insurance. I actually prefer the insurance control because the insurance is the item that we cannot control. What I mean by that is insurance doesn't go up by 3.5% every year. It can go up by 100%. It can go up by an extreme amount. So having control on that on a 50-50 is a much better situation than worrying about a 3.5%. So I'm more on an apples to apples and back to what Joe's situation is, because, we're trying to operate similar to the contract he has, but understanding that his numbers are based on the fact that he built up those numbers over years and years of work. So you have to give that credit there and understand that this is someone coming in day one asking for 100% on these things. I'm more willing to offer after the 1 year, the 3.5% increase, because that doesn't affect the insurance. The insurance can be a crushing blow to us. That can all of a sudden knock this number into 260, 275, et cetera. So I'm just.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, health insurance is an unknown variable these days, and premiums are, I know mine is, I pay 100% of my own, and it continually goes up. So I would be in favor of that, Alex. Peggy, do you have thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that, I think the healthcare, offering the healthcare at 50% for the dependents is not a bad idea. The merit and COLA is gone. I think the other thing we can do is if he's, 100% of healthcare for his dependents is important, is we can, look at the retirement benefits and take those from 15% to 13%, which I think, Glenn, that's what you originally offered him, right? It's 13%.
We went back and forth, but that was my last, my last offer to him. Yes.
So we're looking at something here. So we've got a couple of options.
Elaine, do you have further thoughts?
So while he might not have the experience here in Juno Beach, he is an experienced town manager with 28 years of service. That's why we have, I think, the higher salary number. I understand either the COLA or the insurance being adjusted, or the retirement.
So would we want to then keep the salary at the proposed 183? Bring the dependent benefits to 50%, eliminate COLA and merit in the first year, and then the 13% was take the 15% to 13 and offer him that. Would you
That's
feel
a lot.
comfortable?
So
Is that-
I think if you're going to reduce the health insurance,
That's-
and take away the COLA and the merit first year, I think you leave the retirement at the 15. And I think Alex does make a good point. We have the least control. As I said, you can control the salary, but we have no control over the insurance.
Yeah.
And I would just counter Elaine, I would just counter what you said just on the experience. He's going to receive a pension from Stewart, so he's already getting well paid for that. So we have to look at us from a separate standpoint. He's starting in here day one. He's not coming in like Joe and having 10 years of experience here.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Caitlin, did you have other? Okay, thanks. Matt, you had more numbers?
Oh, for me?
Matt, for the I would say, Matt, for the benefit of everybody, could you tell us all?
Well, yeah, you can explain that to me.
We're talking about the insurance. Basically, the town offers two insurance plans, health insurance plans. One is a base plan, which is what, employees get if they want to buy up to the other plan. That's a buy-up plan. And the buy-up plan is, as Alec keeps pointing out, that the cost of these things, increase. So it's additional $400 a month. So I was just kind of commenting to Len, and I believe in Joe's contract as well, it states that it's the insurances are the base plan, not, the buy-up plan, basically. So that was just a point that I wanted to just kind of mention to Len.
Okay.
It should, again, since we're talking a lot about the insurance and the cost of it, I just wanted to point that out because I didn't want it to not say it. And then it's all of a sudden it's $4,800 more.
No, that's good to know. Thank you. Somebody like to make a motion or a summary? Len, do you want to summarize what you
Well,
have for us?
I mean, it was,
And then we can make a motion to accept that as the counter offer.
well, my understanding was the counter was the health and the dependent health insurance coverage at 50% and then the no COLA merit first year and leave the salary alone. And that's my understanding of where we were.
Okay.
I I would support that. I think that's pretty reasonable. I think that's putting it more in line with what Joe's getting, and it's putting a 1-year term on the raise.
Okay.
I would be in
thanks.
agreement.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I know that, the 183, he hopefully will bring a higher level of experience. I look at that a little bit different, and that he's going to bring a higher level of experience to our town. He has a strong background in operation. And with that said, though, I think we should see a higher level of management for Mr. Dias as well. Or expect that as well.
Okay, do you need a motion?
Well,
from us?
yeah, so so this way, if he accepts it, it'll be done. So if somebody could make a motion to approve subject to those 2 changes. Of course, I'll I'll distribute the final.
And now, so a start date, that's part of this contract as well. What is his time frame
He
there?
didn't
Stuart?
know the last time we discussed it. Hopefully I can give you a better update once we get this hopefully wrapped up.
So his contract is 30, have you seen it? Is it 30-day notice or 60-day notice? I guess 60 or 90 seems to be typical.
Yeah, and the way he explained to me, it depended on who his successor was going to be. I don't even think his contract, it does say he may voluntarily terminate 60 days. So it does say 60 days.
So you do it like a closing on or about?
But he didn't want to, in fairness to Mr. Dias, fairness to anybody in that position, he didn't want to give his formal notice until he had a contract with the town of Juno Beach. So it's 60 days from then. So we're at the end of February, March. That brings us almost to the end of April. I think that's where the May 1 date was coming from. But I think what he was saying was that if they go with an internal candidate, then it could be shorter.
Okay.
Or no later than May 1st.
Yeah, but no later than May 1st.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to agree to the employment
To approve,
to
approve the employment
Approve.
agreement. I'm sorry,
the
Peggy.
employment agreement with David Dias to serve as town manager with 50% health care for dependents and waiving the merit and COLA the first year.
Do we have a second?
You can second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much. I will relay that. Well, he's probably watching, but I'll relay that back.
Okay, item number 5 is discussion on methods for implementing citizen participation in the decision-making process. It said there were going to be additional backup materials provided.
Mayor, didn't we have the Palm Beach County deed before that?
Oh, sorry. Was
No,
that?
that's okay.
I moved.
know we
everything
renumbered.
around. Okay, so now we're at, item 4.
Okay, so
The Palm Beach County deed for the dune walkover at Donald Ross Road.
okay, so it's resolution 2023-02, resolution of the Town Council of Town of Juno Beach, Florida, accepting a deed from Palm Beach County for the conveyance of that portion of the Donald Ross right-of-way east of Ocean Drive, including the pedestrian dune walkover, and providing for an effective date. Joe could probably give you better background than me, but apparently the or do you want to just do it, Joe? You're better at the background since you were involved from the beginning, and then I'll chime in as necessary.
Sure. This all happened because we have a great relationship with the county, and we've always had that. And I'm gonna stress that with the new town manager, that we keep that great relationship with the county. But we had a disagreement with them on this point, and they thought we own that dune walkover. We said they own that dune walkover, and there was some damage that needs to be repaired. And we went back and forth for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. And finally, this is the resolution. They want to quit claim free oceanfront property. So that dune walkover does serve our residents, our visitors, and our guests. So I think it's a good compromise. Unfortunately, we'll have to go in there and make some improvements because it's not at a level that it's Juno Beach standards right now. So it'll cost us money in the future to replace the dune walkover, replace the shower. We already maintain the site. We already pick up the garbage. We pay for the water bill. So there's some things we've already contributed to, but I think this is a good deal and a good compromise because of our good relationship with the county. I would recommend passing this.
Thank you, Joe. Caitlin, are there comments on this item?
Not that I received.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So essentially what they're conveying is the entire, the right of way of Donald Ross Road east of Ocean Drive. So it goes a little beyond the structure. But, originally they made a lot of claims originally. Originally they claimed we had to maintain it. Originally they claimed that it was our right of way, but we, staff really did the best job of rebutting those claims. And then when they're starting to talk about the right of way, I'm like, no, we've abandoned a lot of rights of way, but not Donald Ross Road, which used to be known as Olive Street. Fun fact, fun Juno Beach history fact. So just wanted to make that point. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. And then when is the Board of County Commissioners meeting? Because ultimately they would. need
Yes,
to approve
ultimately
it.
they have to approve it in next month, I believe.
Yeah.
I had the date somewhere. I'm sorry, I didn't bring it.
Okay, that's fine. Council discussion. Alex? Yeah.
I was supportive of it when it came up. I mean, yeah, beach property, we might as well maintain it and take control of it. So I'm on board.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
No comment. I'm in favor.
And
Peggy?
to Joe, thank you. You started this process years ago, so thanks for facilitating this conveyance of the property. Even though there's a little bit of insurance or maintenance responsibility, owning the dune walkover is more beneficial to the town, so absolutely in favor of it.
Okay, Elaine?
Additional comments?
Okay, thanks. Yes, it's a long time coming. Those cones have been there for about 4 or 5 years or a long time. So it's good that we have movement on this. So if someone would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the deed from Palm Beach County for that portion of the Donald Ross Road right of way east of Ocean Drive, thereby accepting ownership and maintenance of the existing pedestrian dune walkover.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you, county.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Okay, now we have item 5, discussion on methods for implementing citizen participation in the decision-making process. Peggy?
Yes, I put this on the agenda to discuss actually at a future date. There's no expectation from any council member this evening, except for a possible consensus to move the item forward to staff or to put this on the goal setting workshop. I believe we learned from the community events area that council has to do more to obtain citizen participation procedures, then apply those procedures as we move through the decision-making process. The goal here is to build better relationships, which allows us to manage conflicting positions effectively. It builds coalition of support, and it helps us to get it right the first time. So I think it would benefit the entire community. So what I'm looking for this evening is just to get a consensus to let possibly the new town manager work at helping direct council for the best implementation of this process.
So a new town manager would bring us a process by which we would consider it a different mechanism for bringing workshops or other discussions that may be of particular interest to people.
Right. And we could also set it on the goal setting workshop for May, because we probably need to set that date pretty soon, right?
In March, after the election, we
election,
typically
yeah.
set it. Yeah. Okay. So
That's where I would like to see this is on the goal setting workshop. By then we'll have our new town manager as well and get his ideas.
he may already have some thoughts on
Right.
how to do this. Yeah.
That'd be a great place to start this discussion.
Okay. So
Just a consensus to put it on,
Consensus.
everyone.
Caitlin, comments?
Yes, I did receive comments. Krista Carey Dunn, 470 Seaside Lane. Thrilled to see an agenda item that encourages the discussions with the town citizens on implementation of ideas. As your emails have not reached many of you these past few years via the town site, this will give the council elected by the citizens a true opportunity to be heard. We have a town full of brilliant minds. To listen to the ideas and voices of the citizens can only make each of your jobs easier. Also, Michael Clarjan Arcanata.
Michael Clargen, our Canada, 70 Celestial Way. I think is good, obviously, your proposal, but it has to be done now. Not when the possible newcomer arrives. Immediately, there's an urgency to bring citizen input into Juno Beach. We just sent a letter with 10 representatives of concerned citizens of Juno Beach. So no, we don't have to wait until someone comes. It has to be implemented now. And we are asking for a moratorium to the negotiation process with the select candidate for town manager. Everything has to be reviewed. We have to go to full transparency and accountability in open government, a code of ethics, and open government procedures. You go to the Sunlight Foundation and take a tutorial on open government procedures through open code. And this has been absent here, clearly absent. The town council has failed in that regard. So we need to really do it now, no, not wait, but now, so that the citizen input can be brought into the decision making. And I'm expecting council members to step forward. I'm expecting Alexander Cook to step forward and say, we need to schedule a workshop for the people of Juno Beach within the next week, if possible. Can we agree on that?
Thank you. Council members can address it at the end during their comments.
Well, I will hope that Council Member Alexander Cook will voice those concerns.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Caitlin? Okay, so do we have the consensus to add this to the goal setting workshop? That's all you'd like? I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that too.
Or you can
I'll-
adjust comments now
I'll-
if you prefer.
I'll
Yeah.
respond. So, first off, I understand the issues people are having. I understand the complaints. I just want it perfectly clear, though, that David Dias was selected, and I wholeheartedly support his selection, and I look forward to working with him. I don't think there's any benefit in going backwards here and trying to rework the process. We have a plan here. We need to work with that. At the same time, I acknowledge the request for the workshop. So my view on the workshop would be on a going forward basis for future decisions along these things. And yes, I will support a workshop for those purposes. But again, I don't support it for going against and affecting who we selected. We all voted up here to support that person in the end. And I want him to succeed, and I will do everything in my power to make sure David Dias succeeds as long as he accepts the contract. And I suspect he will. So I just want that very clear. That's where I stand on this. But again, I don't think we can get a workshop in 1 week. But if we do get a workshop, I do think we should work on something going forward for these things as they come up, because yes, they're going to come up again, and they're going to come up in the near future with other situations. We're probably going to have to look for Matt's job fairly soon, because Matt is going to be leaving us in November. All right. So I understand that may be a situation where we may, need to have a different plan going forward and how we do this. Diana's criteria is fantastic. I think that's a great idea. But I want everyone to understand that, regardless of how votes went, we should be getting behind David Dias and supporting him if and when he comes on board. And that's all I have to say on it.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along. So we had, let's see. The fish identification signs for Pelican Lake. So I understand that the ecology group is working on another fishing contest, and in light of the fact that the FWC donated fish to the lake, I think it's important to let fishermen know what fish are there, which ones are good to remove, which ones aren't good to remove. We have those invasive tilapia. So I wanted to just basically for this item, get council consensus to have staff work with Sean Patton, work with FWC to create some signs that would be informative and educational as well. And, I had just copied a page from the internet on a kiosk. There's some nice kiosks. This one was sort of bland, but there's different ways to display the information. There's different ways we can portray the fish in different kinds of signs that'll be fun and interesting. And there's some guidelines in the backup material that FWC sent me. Some are simple, where we could just laminate one of their signs, or we could get permission from the artists who created the fish renderings and, do a more elaborate sign. So just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that. So Alex, you have thoughts on that?
I only had one question. Are these going to be permanent signs?
Yeah, it would be a permanent sign mounted somewhere around the lake inside a kiosk, like, posted like a notice. I mean, that's up to us how we would want to post it. But I do see a lot of people fishing out there, and it could be interesting and educational and beneficial to let people know, hey, there's these invasive species. Show them the picture of which those are, and then the native species as well.
I mean, I get where you're going with this, but I'm not sure I'm going to be on board with adding more signs. So that's kind of, I mean, maybe you want to rework some of the signs there, and
I think we have an alligator sign, so some of the sign, and we have don't feed the duck signs, which everyone ignores anyway.
I know, and it's unfortunate, but I think there's a lot of signs around the lake already.
Okay.
That's kind of where I am with this. I'm going to apologize. I'm sorry about that. I get where you're going with this one, and I support the idea, but unfortunately, I think there's
Maybe
too
not.
many signs. That's kind of my view.
All right, thanks, Jason.
I tend to agree with Alex. I will say that there used to be not so much a kiosk as much as a plaque or something that was in the gazebo at the south end of Pelican Lake. I don't know. It was never in, at least to my recent memory, it was never in great shape.
And it had fish pictures on it.
But maybe something like that, as opposed to constructing anything new or different. And I guess my preference would be to try to leave the area around the lake as natural as possible.
Okay, thanks. Peggy?
Yeah, excuse me, I have to agree with that, but I love educating the public, but I have heard various concerns on putting additional signs up and, not knowing what type of signs to display. If the signs, maybe the signs should be more discreet if we have any signs, even if they're right for the lake, because there's some concern about bringing fishermen in from outside of this area. And I'd hate to see us bring more people in to, fish, but, who knows if that would happen. But I think it's a topic, if we did move forward with it, that it should be a public workshop with the ecology group involved in the meeting as well. That way everyone can hear the pros and cons, weigh public comment, as well as what type of signs. But I tend to agree, we got to be careful of sign pollution also, around the lake.
Okay. Yeah, the idea. Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna agree with Alex and Jason particularly, and I'm not a fan of more signs. I've never been. I feel like the signs that we do have and have added in the past years have been ignored. So it's just, I'm not a fan of more sign pollution.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Okay. Public comments?
Diana Davis.
Diana Davis, 440 Sunset Way, Juno Beach Ecology Group. I'm going to echo the same, no ugly signs, and please move forward with lake beautification. I also liked the educational signs that were below the railing at the south gazebo. They were kind of at a slant, and they had artistic rendering of wildlife, and it named the wildlife. I think we need to redo the existing signs that are industrial, they look DOT issued. The metal roadway signs, the do not feed the wildlife signs are very ugly and don't have the feel that we want for the lake. I believe like the Florida state parks have rules regarding their signs, and they have to be carved and they have to be artistic, and it adds to the beautification. It doesn't seem like a roadway truck stop the way our don't feed the wildlife signs look. So we need a beautification plan that includes bringing the landscape around the lake up to the lake's approved by the town landscape plan, And we need to have sign criteria that would add to the beauty of the lake, the feeling of a beautiful botanical garden, not a roadway truck stop. Thank you.
Any
But
other
I do
comments?
agree with the mayor that we should say tilapia, cichlids, keep those, don't throw them back. We need to get that education out there, but it should be under the rail at the north gazebo with a beautifully carved sign that fits our sign standards that we've adopted as part of a beautification plan for the lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, then maybe we could talk about this at one of the Pelican Lake workshops because FWC did provide me with certain images of the fish that we stocked in the lake and the invasive fish. And I think it would be useful. And, you know, okay, maybe it doesn't look nice in a kiosk. You don't want a special sign, but given that we stocked the lake, I think it's important to notate it somehow. So, I mean, could we get a consensus to have this as a Pelican Lake workshop item for further discussion? Is everyone okay with that? I don't know.
What happens with Pelican Lake
Well,
workshops?
Joe manages the workshop, so he makes the agenda. So I suppose we would need consensus, right? Would you put it on the agenda if we don't have consensus?
I kind of like the ideas that I'm hearing, so I'd like to put it on the agenda.
Okay. All right.
The truck stop thing got me.
I don't think any of the signs look
Did
like,
give me a good image of.
I don't think we have truck stop looking signs, but so we'll have consensus to put it on a.
We could do better.
agenda.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Comments from the town manager.
I just didn't hear consensus. I'm going to make these minor changes on here. No problem. Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, comments from the attorney,
No, ma'am.
comments from staff.
Yes, Mayor. We scheduled the Kagan Park workshop for 3:30 prior to the April Town Council meeting, which is April 26th, I believe it was. There are some scheduling conflicts with staff, and staff was wondering if we could postpone it until May. This also in case there's a runoff or anything like that going on, if we can put it at 3:30 on May 24th prior to the Town Council meeting.
I'm okay with that. Is everyone okay with that? Or
Yes, that's,
Yes.
thank you.
so
And
it'll
then
be the workshop will be May 24th prior to the
town
council
council
meeting at
meeting.
what time?
3:30.
3:30. And that's Kagan Park workshop.
Yes. The other items that I have, the Coffee with a Cop is next Wednesday, March 1st at 9:30. Mayor's Hour is next Friday, March 3rd at 4 p.m. The Planning and Zoning Board Lecture Series with guest speaker Thomas Bradford will be Monday, March 6th at 2:30 p.m., followed by the Planning and Zoning Board meeting at 4 p.m. And the Town of Juno Beach municipal election will be Tuesday, March 14th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And March 22nd is the next town council meeting. March 22nd, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from staff, Steve? No? Okay. Comments from council, Alex?
Well, I got a couple things. So I'm gonna ask you, Dee Dee, real quick, because Jacob brought something up. He said that on the Node Zero report, you weren't able to get that due to confidentiality.
No, and I was going to bring that up. I had sent Andrea an email asking for the analysis and I didn't receive a response, but when I did speak with her, she said it was confidential and she couldn't give that information to me. And
It's available to view. We just don't like to send it out,
But-
it's we met, when we did it was not Node Zero. It was an independent contractor, VC3. I can't remember.
in
I'm sorry.
2020,
Did you say what it was?
VC3. I believe it
VC3.
was.
That was pretty close. And what we did was we sat down with each council member at the time and went over those results. And but we did not electronically send it out to everybody because it is protected by Florida law.
so I may not have been on council in 2020 when that was done, but when I spoke to Andrea, she did not offer me an opportunity to sit down and go over it. So when-
That's a misunderstanding. We'll go over with anybody here. I'm sorry. We just won't send it out.
Well, and I'm fine with that. I just, I mean, I think that, you know,
No, we'll go over it
we should
with anyone at the council.
get
of course.
the right and because that was going to be another item, because when that popped up, I know the mayor also asked for the event center signs. We spent like 50 grand trying to push through that event center, and they, the schematics and things, she asked to have those placed in the town hall and was told no to that. And I don't know that I accept that, because I feel that could have alleviated a lot of the issues that rose up in that workshop if they had been on display. So I'm throwing that out there. I think that I think simple things like that shouldn't be a no answer, especially to the mayor. So that's one of the things I feel we need to cover going forward. And as far as the email situation, because I know Vice Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Wheeler responded to that, and I didn't want to respond because at that point we do cross into sunshine. It's not a procedural issue in my view. It is a bigger issue than that. And I will admit that the town has given me my email address. I do have control of it, and I do receive emails on it. Unfortunately, I do also have proof that I didn't receive emails previously, and I'm not going to say whether that was in, issues that arose previously. It could have wound up in spam. It's a very easy possibility. But regardless, it shows that there are some issues there, and we probably do need new audits, and we probably need to see what's really going on with these systems. Additionally, I did speak with our incoming town manager on this subject, and he informed me the way they operate is they have a council email address. So if you want to send a bulk message to everyone, it's council@Stewart. However, every member of the council has their own email address. It goes directly to them. And for the purposes of safety, yes, there are servers that record it, because that's how it all operates. And additionally, I just wanted to add that Jacob made a very valid point. We probably shouldn't be operating out of our personal email addresses, because if something does happen to us, the access could be an issue. Among other things, there isn't the same level of security and the level of controls. So ultimately, the system is going to have to become such that each of us control our own email addresses. And maybe there is a council one if people want to do a blast system that goes through the staff, et cetera. But again, this is all things that are probably going to have to come up in a future audit that we're going to have to probably vote on in the near future. And on final notice on this, going forward on all of these items, I really believe that regardless of how responses are, there shouldn't be any message of confidentiality to especially the mayor, who has the oversight. So it shouldn't even, I don't even know where that's even a thought. That shouldn't happen, because that's
Sorry,
just the way it is.
that was a misunderstanding. That was
Okay.
portrayed
All
that
right.
way.
And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Yes, I want to say thank you. After 9 years on our town council, 6 years as serving as mayor. Thank you to the residents of Juno Beach. Thank you to the town staff. Thank you to all of my fellow council members. It has been an absolute pleasure to serve my community and to serve the residents. I'm very proud. I tend to be pretty reserved and humble. I'm not up here to talk about how hard I work or how much I've done, but what was accomplished over that period of time, it was a team effort. It took the entire council, and that includes a number of different council members, including Ellen Andel, who was here earlier, and all of the residents, business owners, and it was true in the nature of the town's mission statement. It was a true partnership effort. I think, among other things, I'm very proud of the fact that over that entire time, there's been a balanced budget each and every year. But most significant is the connection. I remember when I was first campaigning, having the opportunity to sit down with Dan Corbett and Frank Fay, Jim Lyons, Bill Colmer, Frank Harris, Gail Nelson, and even Mort Levine. Each of those individuals have left their fingerprints or footprints on the town. Just being able to take a baton from them, get their advice, get their perspective, get their thoughts on issues over the years has been an absolute honor and a privilege. I think that in terms of other accomplishments, and I'll just try to go quickly here through a number. Each and every year, we provided for a well-funded law enforcement department. Public safety is one of the top priorities, and a high level of service being another top priority for that department. Our already low crime statistics in Juno Beach seem to improve year after year. Our town had surplus funds that nearly doubled over that period of time. Really quite a feat when you consider the fact that there was very little in the way of investment return because of the nature that those funds could be invested. There really was not very little opportunity for compound interest given the interest rate environment. It took an active, continuous effort year in and year out for each department, every department head to manage their budgets and try to contribute to that effort. It took an active effort by the council year in and year out. It was anything but automatic. We had record low millage rates. The clear trend was no tax increases, with numerous years being tax decreases along the way. We resolved the town's largest litigation matter that the town had faced in years, left it in addition, also on a positive footing, both financially and in terms of relationship wise, so that the parties could move forward constructively. With the help of our charter review committee, we tightened up controls over the environmental sensitive land. It was no longer a majority or supermajority, but requires now a unanimous vote by the entire council to make any changes to that environmental sensitive land. I think that's very much a reflection of the personality of our town and how much we really value that environmental sensitive land. We, at least with all due respect, I think the world of Mort Levine, our former mayor and my predecessor at the time, but he was a little more formal than I was. Did away with the formal office hours for the mayor. We added mayor's happy hour. The happy part seemed to have dropped off. But it was a more casual, accessible opportunity for residents to get questions answered by the town staff, by the mayor, by the town council, without having to come to meetings or stand up at a lectern. If they so choose. We established Juno Beach Cares, an effort in coordination between residents, town staff, and the Civic Association. And while most residents don't need the check-in calls or the visits, during COVID, it actually worked out quite well. We had a number of elderly residents who we were able to make sure they were managing okay. Volunteers and town staff were reaching out to them regularly, making sure that they were okay, both physically and psychologically during those first several months of COVID. And that's just, I think a lot of the feedback that came from that was people just really appreciated that their community cared enough to check in on them. Family members of some of those individuals I know got back to the town staff and expressed their appreciation. Same with the preparation during the times where we faced hurricanes and things like that. The staff's done a tremendous job reaching out to a number of elderly residents that are already on a sort of pre-prescribed list, that just people we need to look out for in our community. And I think that really was a testament to that partnership effort. We've added dedicated green space during that the 9 years I've been on the council. We've improved the dune walkovers. We've completed another round of beach renourishment. We've helped our residents at the Waterford better prepare for their future, both on the business side, on the resident side, and our constituents there. We've pushed back on numerous proposals that involve US 1 and Donald Ross Road. I don't know how many meetings, workshops, and everything else we had. There's no Wawa station there, no hotel, no assisted living facility, no rental apartments, all kinds of different options that were available. We got, in my opinion, we've got the right developer and the right project going in there. We've managed through floods, lightning strikes, tornadoes, hurricanes, tropical storms. All again, a testament to our town staff and the effort, not just to clean up after the fact, but to prepare in advance, make sure our town was prepared for whatever might come and could continue to run and do as well as necessary in the face of those events. And react to some of those events. I mean, we had a tornado. I remember I mean, I think Joe was on his way in from work and he got maybe 20 minutes notice and had to divert from a meeting to get right over there. Our staff has also been, was extremely proactive, helping business owners throughout COVID. Relaxing signage and other restrictions and code issues, trying to help them where they could to remain open and make sure that they could really, the businesses could continue to serve the residents of Juno Beach and also continue to keep themselves afloat. There's plenty more. I've listed too many and taken up too much time already, but none of it would be possible without, again, the team effort from other council members, the staff, the residents, all of the business owners, and I thank you all.
Thank you, Jason.
Wow, Jason, I want to personally thank you for your service to Juno Beach, and it's been a pleasure to work with you for these 6 years. So gonna miss you up here. Okay, let's get into, Frank was gonna actually mention the Ocean One crosswalk. Is it okay for me to mention that tonight? That
It was resolved.
sorry?
It was resolved.
No, that they were gonna have the town take that over. That's
No.
not happened yet?
That's not
Okay.
happening. It's the opposite.
They're gonna
It's
do it.
the- They're gonna
They're gonna do
continue
it.
to do it. Okay, because I heard something different this morning.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go on to the.
No,
Ocean-
go back. I don't, explain the backstory on this, please.
I was talking to Frank this morning and he had mentioned to me that the Ocean One crosswalk, they were having a difficult time, obtaining the signs and that they were going to see if the town could facilitate it. And, I thought that was possibly a good idea and that's the last I heard. But
You mean-
at this point, that is not going to happen.
Because the
But-
county wasn't
No,
responding?
they couldn't
Yeah.
get the equipment, the signage and the equipment, everything is supply chain issues. So they didn't want to hold up their CO. So that when that happens, normally we enter an agreement and they give us like 40% contingency and we give them back the money after we put the apparatus, infrastructure or whatever. We didn't have to do that. Mr. Frankel said, I think he's got a solution to it. So everything has changed since this morning. So
So it's not a county issue at all?
No,
I mean,
no.
he
To
was
me, it
going to
was-
supply everything.
to me, my understanding, it was an issue getting the equipment.
And what I was going to say on that is it was a positive. I thought it was going to be positive so that we could get that crosswalk in because I know we're waiting for the other crosswalks on US 1, possibly at Town Center or Atlantic Boulevard. So moving on to Ocean Ridge, I want to talk a little bit about the pedestrian pathway and see if I can get a consensus prior to this agenda item coming to council, because I know that the town engineer has gone out there and looked at it and will be providing a letter to the town. So I just wanted to see prior to making any decisions on the Ocean Ridge pedestrian pathway by council and the blind spot, that if we could have the opportunity to hold a workshop. This is all going to be presented at the next meeting. So I'm just in advance. I just didn't want to go into a meeting and be making decisions on something that we didn't have a workshop on first. So I just would like to get a consensus that a workshop be held prior to any council decision. And this is on the Ocean Ridge pedestrian pathway and blind spot on Floral Drive.
I need more information on that. That's the pathway that goes through their community and comes out on the side of Terra Marsh. They were taking care of it for a while. Then the maintenance went back to the town. That we're talking about that
Correct.
pathway that goes behind
Yes,
that
it's a
shopping.
pedestrian public easement path. Yes.
And I've seen things in the activity report, but where does it stand now?
We're still trying to get an agreement with their residents.
So they need to vote on it primarily before we can take any stance on it because it's their HOA. Am I understanding it correctly?
it's pretty, it might not be a bad idea to do a workshop on this one. It's a pretty extensive amount of information. You want me to give you a little bit of synopsis?
A little bit.
Okay. When that development was developed back in 2003, there was a lot of paper roads that were abandoned, and that's obviously a gift to the developer, so they can develop that property. And what in turn, we asked to get a path, a pedestrian path through their community onto US 1. So that was the trade-off. Now, obviously, the residents are not thrilled with that because they have pedestrians going through their community. They also feel of liability litigiously. They're worried about people suing them because it's not up for any reason you can get sued. They say one of the reasons why we should take it back is because we have this sovereign immunity, which is up in the legislature. So that was passed on the agenda. Everybody talk to your senators, talk to your state reps. We got to keep sovereign immunity because our insurance rates, our insurance premiums will go through the roof. So that they have basically their concerns are the developer. They were not involved. The residents who bought there afterwards they believe they got a bad deal. But they obviously got their development done. So the three issues could be, we take over the path totally. It's not a public path anymore. It's a town, it's a public path on a private road. So we would take it over and say, it's our path. We would close the path. That's another option. We just close it and it does not exist anymore. Or the third is we keep it the same way it is right now, which is it's in their plat that they will maintain it. And we have a joint liability on that issue. So we did get an engineer out there and there's some improvements that could be made, very minor. There are minor issues that could be improved. There's not a lot of volume up there, but there's people, amount of cars, but things have changed in the last 20 years. What has changed? We have Amazon trucks going up there. We have these electric bikes. There's all kinds of concerns that the residents have that we're trying to air out. So it's not an easy one. So if you want us to have a workshop, but that's it. And Len, did I do a good job?
What's their preference?
Did an excellent job.
Have they stated?
Yes, their
Well,
preference.
their preference.
Their
would be-
preference
To
is
close it off.
no. Well,
Or-
actually, we never gave them
Don't
that.
know.
We never gave them that option. But they liked the option of us not making a private, that part not making it private anymore, that public easement be owned by the town exclusively, where we would take over all the liability.
And keeping it open.
Well, again, we never
Yeah,
asked.
I don't, their preference.
I
might
don't
be to
think we
close
ever
it.
went over the other option of closing it completely.
And are they asking for a workshop? Do they feel that their needs aren't being met in some way?
No, we're still negotiating. I mean, it's pretty heavy in there, but we're going back and forth because you can see it's not an easy one. This is not an easy one. It's not uncommon for a private street to have a public easement, but we are partially liable for anything that can happen there. So because it's a public easement,
Because it's a public easement.
because it's a public easement.
So by having a workshop, it would be all the stakeholders, anybody interested in weighing in on it, or would it be too many people sort of getting into their business because it's their HOA? Or is it exclusively for that community? Because we don't.
We're trying to work
I
it
don't
out.
think
If
we want to
if we
dictate
come
what
into
they
an-
should
we-
do.
We might be coming into an impasse, maybe, and maybe that's when we bring it up to you. But obviously, we have a great relationship with the community and we're trying to work it out. But those are the options and they have valid concerns. I mean, the sovereign immunity, just to give you, that's something that they bring up that makes sense. We have a cap of $200,000. They could be sued for $12 million, which some HOA was just sued for $12 million. So they have valid concerns. We're trying to work it through. You want to do a workshop? You want us to continue? We'll try to work it out with them to see what's the best that staff and the community thinks. It's your pleasure.
Right. And I think that staff will work with them, but I think before it comes to council and council's making any final decision that they deserve a workshop on it so that everyone can get up and the stakeholders can, voice their opinions.
So it's a workshop specifically with council, not a whole
Correct.
public workshop.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, it has to be a public workshop.
I mean,
Stake-
for the stakeholders, public, or are
Well,
there people who-
anyone can.
anybody who doesn't live on that
Anytime-
street can weigh in.
Yes, yes. So it's your preference. We can continue to try to hash it out, but or we can have a public workshop, what's your preference?
I think, Joe, that you're going to try and you're going to talk to them first. And this is only if you don't reach an agreement that we should go ahead and.
We're still
have-
talking and hopefully we can get an agreement where we can say this is the best moving forward, but we're not there yet.
Is their whole HOA in agreement amongst themselves, or is there dissent in their?
They're in
because-
agreement. They don't want the liability. That's what they're in agreement.
They're concerned about that liability and wouldn't you be? I mean, we
Yeah,
understand.
I mean, but.
You understand where they're coming
But
from.
there's not people in the HOA who are opposing the other people so that it's bifurcated into two different groups where they're against each other.
I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It's just that should the town take on that liability? Because that was the deal struck by the developer and the town 20 years
Right.
ago.
And another quirky twist to this saga is that it wasn't that maintenance responsibility for that public easement wasn't put in their HOA documents or their POA documents, but it's on the plat. So it was a condition that the town imposed that the developer agreed to. So that's another one of the issues that they raised. Not only do they have the liability, but people who purchase in the community don't necessarily know about the liability because it's not in their HOA documents.
I do know that people cut through from the hotels and from the Floral Drive neighborhood. There's kids who ride their bikes through there.
The public easement, they should. They're supposed to,
So.
unless we
okay.
close it. So I think you're saying we'll continue on and we'll try to resolve it.
And
I'm
before it comes, decision.
gonna
on
try to
how-
resolve it before I leave. So that's what I'm trying to do.
As long as we can do a workshop prior to that, that would be great. Is everyone in agreement with that if it comes to it? So I have that consensus.
Well, Joe can
Is
bring it back to us at the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Is
Okay.
that good?
All right. And then the last thing is, a while back, a couple of months ago, I asked for a consensus to provide a procedure that lets council know that staff has responded to the questions that are presented during our public comment period. So what I'd still like to do is get that consensus. I think it will alleviate a lot of the problems that we have with people saying, well, nobody got back to me. And it's going to be as simple as in the activity report, they can put the name of the individual, their address, the question, they don't even have to have their address, the individual, and that the citizens have been given a response. I think, the acknowledgement of that is just going to help. That then they know that they've been heard or answered, because I get a lot of times people saying that they haven't been responded to, and it's just something that I think that would help. And I did have that conversation with Joe earlier today, and he does not have a problem doing that.
No, I
So
don't.
it's okay with everyone?
I don't. Yeah.
That's fine if there's a
Yeah, no,
procedure you'd like to put in place.
All right, great.
no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm not sure this is the time, but thank you, Jason. I didn't realize it was going to be goodbye tonight, so I'm not prepared. But other than that, I will simply say thank you for your years of service to this town and this community. It's much appreciated. And the other thing is, it was brought up earlier today by comments, the charter amendment. It's on the ballot. The only thing I'm going to stress is that everybody please be aware of the fine print. Just read it through, make sure it's something you agree with. It is not a simple yes or no answer. Maybe it is time for a change. Change is here and it's coming, and it's not a bad thing, but just as long as every citizen is aware of what it actually states, that's all. So thank you.
Okay. At one of our prior meetings, resident David Cox had inquired about creating a 70th anniversary celebration acknowledging the incorporation of our town on June 4th, 1953. And wondering if anybody wants to have an incorporation anniversary party to celebrate the 70th year of the town, or should we wait till 75th year? And these are the typical increments. And David was telling me that the last party, I guess, was the 50th anniversary. So do we
I was
want-
there.
You were there?
Of course you were.
So do you want to do 70th, or would you like to wait till 75, or how would anybody like to celebrate? Any thoughts on that?
If the 50th was the last, I'm on the 25-year mark.
Yeah.
So 75.
Okay, is everyone good with that? Okay, so God willing, we'll all be here in 5 years to enjoy that. So, another issue. Caitlin shared with everybody a shower pot email from a man named James who is encouraging the town to embrace the shower pot water recycling initiative. Also honoring our proclamation that we approved tonight for April being Water Conservation Month. I don't know if anybody had time to read that proposal. He's offering, it's quite a long proposal, offering 100 pairs of recyclable, these water pots that catch the water. So when I brought one here. So this is a shower pot. So in the morning, if you're running the water to heat up your shower water and you want to save water, you can catch the water in here as your tap warms up, and then you can use it to water plants or other gardening type things. So that's how the water is ultimately conserved, because it's not just going down the drain while you're waiting for it to warm up. He's proposing that we apply for a grant with South Florida Water Management District to bring this to people's households. I did think that plan was a little bit on the complicated side, but he is offering us, if we want to buy some of these and offer them to our residents for free, if council wants to come up with a small amount of money, offer them to some households who have a particular interest in water recycling. That's what he's trying to encourage. So just anybody have thoughts on the shower pot?
I'm not sure that it's a precedent that we should set as council members. I think we can give out his name and someone could buy it from him, I think, or the ecology group could maybe look into this a little bit and if they're interested in it. But the problem is there's so many good products out there that the town could promote. And the question is, we all love to conserve water, but it's, where do we start this and where do we stop that? So I think we've got to be a little bit careful of it. And, if you wanted to talk about it at the goal setting workshop, or if you want to just end it now and just say, maybe this isn't a good thing to start promoting products, because we could each have a different product that, we might want to promote also. So that's the only thing is setting.
And
up
that's
this.
fine. He's very enthusiastic about it and he just wanted to share it. So,
Right.
yeah. If anybody wants a shower pot, I'll be happy to share his number. I'll give it to our town clerk. So,
I was just going to throw in there, I don't even know if this is even feasible, but maybe in the future, we can look at some sort of a way to support gray water systems for future developments in the houses in the community. Maybe the town has some sort of way of helping that. Or maybe it has to go back to Loxahatchee or the water system for some sort of a discounted basis. But it's just a thought, because I think that would be a lot more productive than the shower pot.
And that's a good idea. I did tour the Seacoast Water and Jupiter Water facilities, and a lot of their gray water does go to golf courses and schoolyards and ways that they reuse gray water. And we can have a further discussion with them. Well, you're on the Seacoast Board about whether or not their gray water piping can even come into here, and we could use it to water Pelican Lake area.
Well, just another on actual private basis on the houses, what they typically do is just reroute it for their sprinkler system. So, it could be an incentive in future builds around here. Hey, we'll give you a discount on permits or whatever if you commit to doing this.
Yeah. Okay. On the landscaping issue, I know we have this landscaping guide. I think it's something council all got at one period, and it has the different classifications of landscaping. Do we want it to look like Disney World? This is for the town-owned properties, manicured, basic. and I happened to find this again, and I said it would be helpful if we had a map, because we have the classifications, but I don't know that we have a map. So would this be something, we could get consensus to have staff overlay the classifications on a map of the town so we know which ones correspond to which areas?
We could just, obviously, we could do that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be helpful, and then we
no
can
problem.
maybe reevaluate it during goal setting and see if we're happy with these maintenance
Service
levels.
levels.
Yeah, the service levels.
Sure.
Let's see, I think that's it for now. So, any other items? We're all good? Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.
There's 7 in there.
Yeah.